WCW Monday Nitro 174, January 11th, 1999. Show opens with clips of Hulk Hogan on Thunder looking absolutely homeless. He looked worse here than Mick Foley did on Raw.
No, let's not get crazy.
He promises...
This outfit he was wearing. It was like Conan was going to the Gathering of the Juggalos.
I don't even know.
He had huge pants and a button-up flannel shirt and a beanie and...
The beanie. I used to wear a beanie before.
Anyway.
He promises to bring backup to Nitro. Mean Gene brings out Ric Flair for a promo. Flair does the big, exaggerated Mean Gene. Says this used to piss Eric Bischoff off, so now he's going to do it every time. He plugs his upcoming tag match with 19-year-old David Flair.
He's actually 21, but...
Sounds better.
For those of you that are not keeping track, they got a pay-per-view this coming Sunday.
Yeah.
Back in real time.
Yep.
Like, they've announced a Rick and David versus Barry Windham, Kurt Hennig match, and I swear to God, I'm watching this going, is that the main event?
Yeah.
Because first off, there's a bunch of stuff here, but Flair talks about Hogan. He rehires J.J. Dillon. I'll try and get through this quick. He announces, Hogan, your first title defense is coming up. I'm like, oh, good, a main event for Sunday. He says, it's coming up next month.
Uh-huh. It's at Super Brawl.
Well, you don't want to rush things.
So there's a pay-per-view Sunday and the world champion. Okay, so what's the fucking main event? So they go on, and finally JJ announces it's Goldberg versus Scott Hall in a ladder match with an object hanging from the ceiling. What object, you might ask? Well, I wrote down every single thing that they referred to this object. They referred it,
it took them
to
many tries.
Yes, as I fuck it up right there. They called it a stun stuck, a stun stick, a cattle prong, a cattle prod, and a stun gun. And a taser.
Taser.
Okay, that's 6 things.
This is not the best promo of J.J. Dillon's career.
For you songmakers out there, you know what to do.
What?
That'll be awesome. Trust me.
And Flair calls out the LWO. Eddie, by the way, just got in an auto accident. He's out for a long time.
Poor Eddie.
Obviously, without Eddie, what do you have an LWO for?
Yeah.
So the storyline to get rid of them is Rick says, hey, take off all your shirts and I'll give you a shot. Okay?
Actually, what he said was, I'll give you money, cars, and women.
Okay, money, cars, and women. So obviously they all take off their shirts.
Which they had, but Eddie was hoarding the week before.
Except Rey Mysterio will not take off his LWO shirt. Now, for those of you that don't listen to this show, the fucking storyline is that Rey Mysterio is a member of the LWO under duress.
Right.
He didn't want to be in the LWO. He was forced to be in the LWO when he lost a match. He was given the shirt. He didn't want to wear it. He was forced to. Now Ric Flair gives them the opportunity to have women, cars, and money. All they have to do is take off the shirt. Everyone takes off their shirt except Rey. What in the fuck is going on?
Well, he's protesting the protest. I don't know.
I hate this show.
It was really awful.
And it only started.
Yeah, you covered most of the details here. JJ was rehired as chairman and, quote, with a new car and a woman limousine driver.
Don't know what that means, but it's got to be
Well,
awesome.
Ric Flair said it. Do the math. They said, we don't know who's going to challenge Hulk Hogan in February. I know a guy who won 100-some matches in a row and got screwed out of his title recently. Just a thought. Booked the Scott Hall match. It was very difficult for them. LWO stuff. And, yeah. Oh, and Flair booked himself in a match with Kurt Hennig for tonight.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Thank God. It's the only good thing on the show.
Absolutely.
Tradition hype video showing great stars of the past. Funks, Jack Briscoe, Dusty Rhodes, and Ronnie Garvin.
Yeah, Ronnie Garvin.
And Wahoo. How do you forget Wahoo?
Well, he did have Wahoo in there. I didn't write down everyone, but we've been watching the Ronnie Garvin title reign.
Oh, my God. We've been talking about this show for an hour now. Gene comes out and interviews Saturn. This is a 3-hour show. We got to get going.
Saturn comes out for a promo. First thing he says is, I can't follow Ric Flair. Then he proves it. Calls out Jericho. Jericho says, I beat you fair and square. You're whining and crying like a schoolgirl. You should be wearing a dress. I'll fight you a third time, and if I win, you have to wear a dress for the rest of his career. Saturn says, no. Eventually, he badgers Saturn into accepting the steps, and that's that.
That's not that. Saturn agrees to a loser. If he loses, he must wear a dress.
Yeah.
They're about to go to break, and Gene says, "Can you believe that?" And Tony Schiavone says, "I can believe anything on this program." And then we had a match. The first match on the show.
Yeah.
20 minutes in. Saturn versus Chat. This is the first match they're giving us here on the show. With Scott Dickinson as a ref.
Scott Dickinson
Because
comes
we
out,
have to have bullshit.
makes
just
himself the ref of
don't
the
die.
match. Tells the other ref, JJ's calling you. Go away.
And let me tell you what happened. Saturn mounts a guy and is throwing illegal punches. Dickinson tries to pull him off. Saturn shoves him down. Shat hits a low blow behind Dickinson's back. How is any of this Scott Dickinson's fault? It's all Saturn's fault. Announcers are yelling at Dickinson to be fair. I'm like, he is being fair.
So the ref, or Sonny Ono, comes out, takes the ref. Jericho hits the ring with a shovel. Hits Saturn with a shovel.
A legit shovel.
Because his whole thing was a burial.
Boom. Psh. Saturn falls into Dickinson and says, "Hey, you fell into me. I'm disqualifying you." Cat's the winner.
Okay, that was at least funny. If you're going to be a heel ref, be a heel ref.
So Jericho then attempts to put a dress on Saturn, but they clearly did not rehearse this.
No,
Like
Saturn's helping him.
Like 3 minutes go by, and they're still trying to get his head through the sleeve.
Yes, exactly.
And they gave up, and Jericho just left.
This is like me trying to dress Paisley. She does not like getting dressed.
I see.
Well, who does?
Clips of Flair cutting
Me.
a promo on Bischoff on Thunder. Opening Nitro credits rolled. Bischoff goes to whatever his new job is. He shows up at WCW offices. Gets out of a limo. There's a green Jag in his parking spot.
Money green.
Money green Jag. His card won't let him into the building. He has to yell at him to open the door. As he walks in, just by the entranceway at random, Nintendo 64 with WCW NWO Revenge playing. No way, to this day, I could just walk by and not pick up a controller. Bischoff is rude to all the new staff. Flair is fired. They make him wait in the office all day. He goes on a rant about how he was there in 1991 when Flair and Jim Ross, who he says by name, were running the company and couldn't get 400 people in a building. Finally, they say, "Flair will see you now." Flair's taken over Bischoff's office.
By the way, when they say Flair will see you now, a woman comes up, looks just like Linda McMahon. It's Janie Angle. They called her Janie. She was Eric's right-hand woman in this company. She knew everything. All the contracts, where the bodies were buried. So,
You should get her on the show.
hated Eric. She wanted to quit. And so she called WWE. They were going to hire her. Bischoff found out, gave her this gigantic raise to stay and not leave. So when they're going to the back, Eric's like, "Did Ric Flair give you a huge raise and now you're living in your big house?" That's why. Eric gave her
Awesome.
that raise.
So Flair's in Bischoff's office. I keep saying office. Whispering. This is like the worst Ric Flair promo ever. I can hear half of what he said. "I'm gonna make your life miserable for 90 days." He's got a box of Bischoff stuff in the office. He says, "Let's go outside. It's time for your next venture." And they go out there, and Bischoff is confused. His car is gone. The limo drives away. And Flair says, "That's your new job." And he points to the ring truck. Bischoff stops, freezes, drops his box of stuff, and just stares. That made me laugh a lot. So Bischoff is now part of the ring crew. He has to ride with this guy from Atlanta to Knoxville. He gets in the truck, and they drive away. There was good stuff in here, but this went like 3 times as long as needed.
Dude, this went like an hour. It was way too long. But this thing did like a 6.2 rating.
Wow.
This quarter hour.
The funny thing is, in Flair's office, there was a coat rack, and on the coat rack was Flair's rope.
Yes. He wore his rope to work, apparently.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mean Gene is back to call out Chavo Jr. and Pepe.
Another stupid interview. How many interviews are on this show?
All of them.
Lots.
With Chavo.
Chavo wants to have a birthday party for Pepe the horse. So they're going to cake out on a table in case you can't see where this is going. Norman Smiley comes out and says, "I'm upset that you didn't invite me." Let me repeat that. "I'm upset that you didn't invite me." Chavo replies, "Hey, you weren't invited." "We know." So Norman offers a handshake. Pepe accepts. Norman lays out Chavo, puts his face in the cake, slams on the table. Table won't break. Norman takes Pepe. They go through the parking garage into the parking lot. There's a wood chipper there. He throws the horse in the wood chipper. "He's destroyed the horse," Tony says.
Don't all stadiums have a wood chipper out back?
In a list of crazy things seen on Nitro shows,
That's fair.
you could call any landscaper and say he'll give you $200 be in the parking lot in an hour. Is it time for a wrestling match, guys?
You know, everybody thought that I was just going to be so happy that Pepe was destroyed and I would love this. I hated this. I'm so sick of this. Pepe was involved. Norman Smiley stole his fucking stick horse and threw it into a wood chipper.
Couldn't even take it to the glue
I
factory.
hate this show.
Now they're going to have more terrible matches.
Now, finally, we got something funny, even though it wasn't a match.
It's true.
They go to Raven at his house.
At home with Raven.
Yep.
First thing, the Sandman makes his debut on Nitro. Is he smashing a beer can over his head and bleeding everywhere? Is he wrapped in barbed wire? No. The Sandman is wearing a button-up shirt and eyeglasses. His back is to the camera. He's playing backgammon with Raven,
Yep.
who's in a bathrobe.
Yep.
He's wearing khaki shorts.
Raven wants his high school yearbook.
I was in awe. I must have missed this show the first time. You bring in the Sandman, who has one positive asset, and that's being the Sandman, and you make him not be the Sandman.
Well, he'll be the Sandman eventually,
I
but
guess.
they're here chilling out. Scotty wants to see his high school yearbook.
Calls him James.
Sandman says, and I quote, "Come on, Scotty, that's your mom. You don't have to disrespect her like that." To which Raven says, and I quote, "Shut up, Jim." They go to find his yearbook. It's all pictures of Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Apparently, Sandman, Canyon, and Raven all went to high school together.
Cool. All right, Wolfpack arrives. I got to get us through the show.
NWRI's B-teamers there. They're a little upset. They're trying to cut promos, but there's a squad of Harleys there, all revving their engines. These guys are shouting at the top of their lungs, trying to get over the bikes.
Hogan's trying to talk over the motorcycles. It's the Hells Angels with Chuck Zito. Apparently they thought this was a big fucking deal because the Hells Angels drive the NWO. They accompany them to the ring.
Mm-hmm.
They show them going down the aisle. They show them going down to the ring. They show them going around the ring in their motorcycles. They had to replay this goddamn thing
Oh,
how
yeah.
many times? We get it. There were motorcycles here.
Yeah.
Chuck Zito's here. Can we move on?
Look, Tony says, it's Chuck Zito from New York. And Larry says, who is Chuck Zito from New York?
I asked the same
I
question.
don't know. I didn't look it up. I don't care. Hulk Hogan's pants, 10,000 times more ridiculous than Okada's pants at Wrestle Kingdom.
That's fair.
Black denim bell bottoms. Hogan says, yes, I'm under contract. I will fight anybody Flair wants. I'm still going to the White House. Nash says tonight he will prove he is wrestling's real giant in his match with the Giant. Steiner says, I'll beat up DDP tonight. He calls himself the People's Champion. Well, he's white trash. You're all white trash, so I guess he's right. I'm going to take his wife and show her what it's like to be with a real man. Hogan names all the bikers.
Then he flexes and says, "My arm is bigger than your leg."
Probably was.
Steiner was awesome. Steiner was the only good thing about this entire segment. He's just crazy.
There's a few mild Goldberg chants, and that's it. Mission accomplished. You murdered him. That's it, everyone. That's the end of that segment.
We finally get our second match of the night. 75 minutes into the show?
May I stop you? They replayed the finger poke angle, including showing what happened after the show went off the air when the Atlanta Falcons, who were on their way to a Super Bowl, they all partied with their ex-teammate Goldberg, who was out there for this media and photo op with spray paint all over his head. You fucking assholes. Now, match number 2.
75 minutes into the show, Rey Mysterio versus Kaz Hayashi. They go 90 seconds, and Lex Luger comes out and runs in for the disqualification.
Yep.
Okay, I will admit, this was so stupid I laughed.
Now Luger wants Rey... Listen, Luger wants Rey to take off his LWO shirt.
Yes.
You're not part of the Wolfpack, he says. No shit, he's part of the LWO. Wants him to take the thing off. He won't take it off. Finally, he racks him and beats his ass. Conan comes down. He's mad. He's mad that Luger beat up Rey. He flat out says, "Why are you beating him up? He's no threat."
That's what he said.
He's not wrong.
That is what he said.
Luger says, well, he's not Wolfpack NWO. He shouldn't be wearing that shirt. What?
Maybe Lex is dyslexic. That's why I call him Lex. He says LWOF.
So then, in the highlight of the entire show, Conan is so mad that he tells Luger, "I'm glad you weren't in my music video."
That was actually, yes, because Conan said, why are you doing this? And Lex said, you didn't put me in your music video.
Nash comes out, they jump Conan, they beat his ass, they zap him with a taser. or a stun stick, or a stun gun, or
Cattle
whatever the
prod.
fuck it is. And the fans of all things chant, "We want Sting."
Yeah.
Not Goldberg.
Well, Goldberg's dead, you see.
The guy who
They've
hasn't
murdered
even been
Goldberg.
on
Did I
TV
mention this?
for like 4 months now. I don't even know where Sting's been.
Like Brett heard him.
I wouldn't show up.
Nothing good can happen.
They send me a check every week. I'm not showing up.
Clips of Hogan from Thunder chewing out the Giant for getting suckered by Randy Savage, costing him Bischoff the match against Flair. This is where they booked Nash versus Giant, with the loser getting kicked out of the NWO.
Great.
Mean Gene then brings Giant out for a promo. So on Thunder, it was winner of the match gets to stay in the NWO. Now Giant says, "I'm going to kick Nash's ass, and then Hogan's next, and I'll take all of you out." They couldn't keep their mind made up for 4 days. It changed everything on Nitro.
So then we're about an hour and a half into the show. We have had the one match at the beginning, which I've already forgotten because it was absolutely completely useless. Saturn and Shat. Then we had a 90-second Rey Mysterio match with a DQ. So finally it's time for the third match on the show. And what do they give us? Booker T versus Lenny Lane. 90 minutes into the show. An absolute nothing match with a nothing finish. And that's it.
Booker hit the sidekick and won. First clean finish on the show.
Now it's time for more videos. It is Hulk Hogan and Nash talking about their epic title match last week with the finger poke of doom.
This made me upset.
It was actually funny, I thought. They're talking
I can
about
see both sides.
What a brutal battle it was, and man, you hit me with that finger and I just went flying. On this show, this was good.
It's one of the better things on this show. Then the announcers just sat back and talked for a while. It was the View breaking out on Nitro. Then they replay the fucking bikers.
Hey, they had Chuck Zito on Nitro. Let's
screamed.
get the most out of this.
Dallas Page and Scott Steiner. God bless these men.
You know what's funny about this match? Very early in the match, Bagwell gets in the ring.
Yeah.
Okay, the match is DDP versus Scott Steiner. Bagwell gets in the ring. Okay? On any other show, I would be so furious that this was not a DQ. On this show, I was like, fine, just let them have a finish, okay? I don't care what rules get broken.
Just entertain
I don't
me.
care what bullshit happens. Just let them have a finish.
The announcers were sure to point out that Page had walking pneumonia.
Well, what a finish it was. Ref bump. Powder in DDP's eyes. Steiner hits DDP with a chair. Puts him in the recliner. The referee wakes up. Vincent, who somehow got knocked out somewhere, he's lying in the middle of the ring. The ref crawls over his body in order to rule Scott Steiner the winner.
At all.
That happened.
This is so much worse than this week's Raw. It is so much worse than the Raw 19 years ago this week. It's so much worse than last week's show. That's a legendarily bad show. This show is terrible.
Before the bullshit finish, the 6 or 8 minutes this went, it was basically a handicap match. Bagwell did as much stuff as Steiner did. It was very good until then. They tried so hard to save this show, but it was not to be done. Goldberg apparently did a sit-down interview, which consisted of like one clip here and one clip later. He said, "I made a lot of mistakes in my football career, in college, and the NFL, but people who rise above correct those mistakes. My last mistake was thinking my match with Kevin Nash would be fair. I've earned my doctorate in professional wrestling. I will never make that mistake again."
You can get a doctorate in this?
Yeah.
Huh.
Clips of Eric Bischoff setting up the ring, taking orders from Klondike Bill.
It just went on forever. It
Now-
sucked.
I wanted to put my boot in this guy's
This did
backside.
not do a 6.4 rating.
All I can say about this is Eric Bischoff clearly at some point must have set up a ring with Brian Alvarez, because he pulled off the trick of, I'm going to do everything so incompetently they kick me out and don't let me set up the ring anymore. Craig, can you
Yeah,
confirm
I
it?
hadn't thought of that, but you're not wrong.
That was the impression I got.
Well, of the three of us, who's the idiots?
The guy who can set up a ring correctly. Anyway, this went forever.
Exactly.
I never set up a ring.
That's
either.
my point.
Bastards. This wasn't funny. And by that I mean this segment here with Eric Bischoff. Our conversation here is actually very funny.
Vinny's very bitter about all these years setting up the ring because he didn't figure it out. Fuck it up enough times, they quit asking you. Hello?
Now, I had to watch Bischoff fuck this up for like 10 minutes and was never any good.
Or you could just be big and menacing and they don't bother you. You had half of it.
Craig.
It's true.
Okay. So, like everything else in the show, this went too long. We had more clips of Goldberg getting laid out last week. Tony Schiavone called the finger poke, quote, the horrible act that will live in infamy in the annals of pro wrestling.
It's true.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Hall comes out for a promo, had a funny line.
No.
God.
They aired a fucking
This
replay.
is so much longer than Nitro.
They had a fucking replay of Eric Bischoff setting up the ring. Then Scott Hall came out.
He had one funny line. Talks about the finish at Starrcade, says, what a shocking finish that was.
Ha!
That's funny.
There was a
He
suicide.
used the cattle prong.
There was a Suicide King sign in the crowd. Apparently, Matt Farmer moved to Knoxville.
Yes.
Let's see. Oh, then he said, I'm going to shock Goldberg again, and everyone cheered because Goldberg is dead. Scott Hall versus Bam Bam Bigelow in a mean guy match. It went 3 or 4 minutes. Out comes Disco Inferno. Wrath shoves Bigelow off the ropes. Bigelow no-sells it. He goes after Hall. Disco had passed Hall a stun gun. Hall stuns Bigelow, pins him. What shit?
I had such high hopes for this match.
Why?
Because Hall and Bigelow.
Dude, get with the program. You're watching Nitro in 1999.
Understood.
Ric Flair versus Kurt Hennig.
Well, we had another Goldberg deal. Called Scott a loser, sickened by Luger. Says he had his doctorate and class began Sunday and Hall better not be late. He doesn't know Scott Hall. Now we had Hennig versus Ric Flair.
We did.
Oh my God, David Flair comes out. Listen, God bless this guy. I'm sure he's a great park ranger nowadays. He's out there in his street clothes. He doesn't even look like a fan.
He looks like a park ranger.
He's below fan level. He's a guy that the fans would be bullying. He's all skinny. He's wearing some stupid outfit. His cheeks are rosy red. He looks 19, even though he's not.
Slack-jawed expression.
He's just...
Deer in the headlights.
He has no idea what to do. At any moment. He's in the semi-main event of the pay-per-view on Sunday.
He would have to light himself on fire to find charisma. You know what I mean?
No.
There's just not...
What are you talking about?
That's the only thing that could elicit a reaction for this guy.
What does that have to do with charisma? Do you know what charisma is?
I understand that.
It's not
had none of
burning. The point of this was horrible.
And...
God damn it. They had a good match, except shit's going on outside. Heels attack David. Flair goes after him. Chop blocks Hennig's leg. Puts on the figure 4. Everyone thinks it's going to be a finish. Wyndham runs in for the DQ. Where's my music? Air just goes out of the crowd.
Yeah.
I'm sickened.
David trips the heels as they run the ropes. He grabs a chair to help his dad. They clear the ring. David Flair was in so deeply over his head. Goldberg says the next question is who's left at Sold Out. Scott Hall is going to be first.
Great.
Giant versus Kevin Nash. I regret to tell you,
Finally, we're at the end of this show.
I was behind schedule. I did not have time to recap Michael Buffer's intros. I bet they were epic. Speaking of epic, Giant was huge.
They had the most hideously boring main event you've ever seen. Every boring spot these guys do in one boring match. Giant is exhausted.
Yes.
He's not doing anything but laying there.
They went fast for 30 seconds, and that was all Giant had.
He was blown up getting to the ring.
Yeah. Kevin Nash has to pace himself to not blow up the other guy anymore. I'm not making that up. Now, I will say this. Giant here, like as big as he ever was, at least in WCW, and I know it's a work, but when Kevin Nash picked this fucker up and body slammed him with ease, that was impressive. He goes for the powerbomb. Heenan notes Giant's gained 50 pounds in the past year.
Dude.
Giant avoids the powerbomb, makes one hideous comeback. So blown up. Hall's in the ring. Whatever. They're just doing stuff. And then Nash grabs the big-ass wrench Bischoff had earlier. He levels Giant with it. He pins him. Bischoff joins the announce desk to dub Nash the NWO Corporate Giant. Everything has to be corporate now.
Well, what he did before he announced the Corporate Giant was he said these words. The Titanic just sank. Say hello to Kevin Nash.
Well, that's kind of amazing.
You guys didn't gloss over when Bischoff was putting the ring up, he used a wrench with a blue handle, and that is what
Yeah, it couldn't just be any random wrench Kevin
Right.
Nash found in the ring.
No.
It had to be Bischoff's magic wrench.
Yes, yes.
That's the one he used to cheat to win.
Yeah. And they stunned Giant with a stun gun. They spray painted him. He's in WWF in like a month. I can only assume this is finally his last appearance. Right?
I hope so, dude.
We're asking the wrong guy. You would think you'd be losing weight when WWE wants you to come.
Hell no, he's getting bigger.
And not in main events. They did more to push him on his way out the door than they did when he was on top.
They even gave him pyro on the way out.
Well, the idea is you make him a star, then you beat him. Then he leaves.
Now, usually the finishers report on Nitro is boring. This was not a usual show.
This will be quick.
I might add, by
Kinda.
the way, NWO spray painted the Giant afterwards.
Yes,
they
he did.
tagged him.
Not his head, though. The finishes on this show were disqualification of the wrong guy by a crooked ref. Disqualification when Luger interfered a minute in. Clean pin. Submission after interference by 2 men, a ref bump, powder, and a chair. Pin after interference by 2 men and a stun gun. DQ to save a guy from a figure 4. Pin after interference from 1 guy and his big-ass wrench.
This show is so draining.
Is it just me? You load Nitro and it says 2 hour, 20-minute show. You think, okay, it's 4. I'll be done at 6:20. And it's so bad it actually warps time. And you watch it and now it's like 7. This happens to me every time I watch Nitro. It takes me 3 hours to watch a 2 hour, 20-minute show.
They probably go for a bunch of walks.
No, it breaks the space-time continuum.
I seriously was watching this show. I was ready to give up. And at about when they had gone an hour with one match, it was 4 minutes long. I was like, done. I could never recover.
Yeah, this one
I
was tough to get
hate
through.
this show. Who was it that claimed that this show got better after the finger poke of doom? Who said that?
Not me. It's got to be one of our listeners.
They're wrong.
Sure.
Anyway, that's Nitro, everybody.
It sucked.
It's so bad. Anyway. Well, Filthy Tom is flying to MLW tomorrow. And so it looks like Sunday, Vinny, it's going to be me, you, and Tom doing NWA World Championship Wrestling and Royal Rumble, I believe, 2009.
Okay.
Get ready. So that's the update on the Filthy Tom show. Thursday will be Thursday Night Potpourri. We'll watch NXT and God only knows what else. And all the other shows on is scheduled. So that's it. I'll talk to you again after a while.
Good night.
Adios.